Hey, I'm Lockchain.
Hey, I'm Sydney. And this is our game journal number 0. We're creating these video journals to look back and see what we've accomplished, keep us motivated on our progress, and to get others excited about our game Senzu.
In this video, we'll go over a little bit about us, what our game is, our progress so far, and what to expect in the future for Senzu.
So I'm a college student who has changed their mind multiple times on the degree I want to get.
For me, a newer developer, the only games I've made to this point have been a very primitive snake game using turtle graphics in Python and a failed game called Avocado Jump using the Swift language for iOS.
About 2 weeks ago, we came up with the idea that we were going to create a game together, something that we've always wanted to do, 5 years in the making.
Senzu will be a mobile game for iOS and Android with the possibility of other platform ports. Still too early for that. Unity was an easy choice for the game engine with a huge amount of tutorials and documentation that's available out there.
All of the art and assets of the game are going to be hand-drawn by us. They're going to be scanned into the computer and then added to the game. We are big fans of games like Sims, Animal Crossing, Tamagotchi, Pokemon, and Stardew Valley. We love just how these games are just addicting to play, relaxing, cozy. They're just fun.
We wanted to take some of the core concepts of each of these games and build upon them. In Senzu, something happens to your planet that you can't quite remember, and now you're just a wandering soul in space. Drifting for what seems to be like forever, you come across this little island, and as you approach it, a meteorite crashes into the island. And in the rubble, you see a little creature called a Senzu.
Senzus are stranded intelligent creatures far from home. They are needing your help to survive in this unfamiliar environment. You'll be taking care of these little creatures, trying to keep them alive and happy. You'll be able to do things like feed, water, clean up after, and bond with your Senzus. Each Senzu will have their own personality and quirks that make them unique. Some might be allergic to certain types of food, others might hate crowded spaces, more introverted, and some might be more like vampires and they hate bright lights. In a similar category, we want each Senzu to be reactive to their environment. So you'll want to change the environment that best fits your Senzu. And yes, this is a tall order, but I think it'd be really fun. We're planning on only releasing 1,000 of each Senzu species. Some Senzus will be harder to breed than others, and where the population of each species goes from there is going to be really fun to watch. We want to have an index, or what we call a Sendex, so you can see the live population counts of each species. We think it would be really fun if you could trade with your friends and want to incorporate that into our game. It probably is not going to be fully multiplayer, but maybe, just maybe in the future, you could get together with your friends, visit their islands, kind of like Animal Crossing. Our game is all about caring for your Senzu while protecting them and your island from meteorites and other threats. First up, we want to make sure that you have the tools you'll need to protect your island from meteorites.
Working with your Senzu, we want to add a feature so that you can create an atmosphere to help with that.
We are thinking maybe different types of species of Senzus poop different kinds of gases so that it can be collected to form a stronger atmosphere. It's still a work in progress, but this is our first game journal after all. We want to add farming, growing food, planting trees, and even expanding your island for your Senzu. There will be a day and night cycles and some kind of fishing. Every good game has fishing in it. We know you might not always be around to care for your Senzu, so we're planning to create a daycare feature, so while you're away or not on your phone, your Senzu can be taken care of so you don't just come back and they're dead. But this will just make it so you have peace of mind knowing that, again, if you're away, they're being cared for. We have a lot more of ideas, but everything we have come up with so far is really tall order since it's just the two of us. But we're looking forward to your ideas and support and would love any feedback you have.
After we made the list of all the ideas of the general features for Senzu, we drew up a couple of the Senzu species along with the home starting island. We scanned in the assets and imported them all into Unity. One of the first issues we faced was our computer kept crashing for an unknown reason, which caused a lot of issues getting started and a lot of headache. But we finally got our first 2D scene set up and we added our first Senzu, Waffle. We wanted to create the different moving animation for our first test Senzu Waffle, like idle, walk, jump, and all of that kind of stuff. This was supposed to be the easiest part, but for still some unknown reason, after I applied all the bones to the sprite in the skinning editor and went to auto-generate the geometry and the weights, the mesh would go red, only being affected by the first bone and not getting that pretty rainbow colored mesh. I've since added bones to several other sprites and had the same difficulty with varying results of success. I still don't know what keeps it from adding the geometry and the weights to each of the individual bones. So if you know what I'm talking about or what I'm doing wrong, comment down below to help me out, as well as others with the same issue, because I've seen in some other tutorials that I'm not alone. I'm working with PNGs and not Photoshop files, but I was finally able to get it working because of what seems like luck, and we got the different animations done. We implemented the wandering movement so they could walk around their cute little home. Now, there are huge issues with this because I'm just setting points and waiting in between. Like, if there was an obstacle, like a tree or something like that in its path, the Senzu wouldn't know how to walk around it, so it'll definitely need to be updated in the future. But I think it's pretty good so far. Now, I haven't done a lot of work with statically typed languages, and since most of my recent projects have been using Python, getting used to the semicolon, curly brackets, and all of the other stuff has been a big pain. After these last couple of weeks, I'm finally starting to get the hang of it. I'm by no means an expert, but looking at C# code no longer looks like Egyptian hieroglyphics. We drew the stars and scanned them in, cleaned them up in Photoshop, and added the stars to our scene, which added a nice touch of ambience. However, we soon discovered that the stars were causing performance issues on startup. The code I wrote generated a bunch of objects of different sizes with sprite renderers for each star to give the illusion of depth behind the game scene. However, since they were all their own individual game object with 1,500 being created every time on game load, it's not very practical. It works for now to illustrate the idea, but it's definitely something we're going to need to change in the future and is just a placeholder. I think we'll use image textures instead in the future. Since each Senzu will have their own personality, we want each of the Senzu to have their own dialogue. We'll start by having them have the ability to talk about what they're currently doing. This will be refactored later when we do change the Senzu to have different states or behavioral tree-based AI rather than it being hard-coded, but it's still a work in progress. Stick with us, and we're really excited about where it's heading. Now, it was about this time when we realized that it would be best if the game was in 3D with an orthographic view type camera. So we went ahead and recreated the entire game once again in 3D, but with our 2D assets. Unfortunately, we did run into another setback when my computer crashed again. We lost almost all of our data, but we're not giving up. We'll keep pushing forward and working on creating the best game we can. Stay tuned for more updates on our game development journey.
Will we finally have a stable game file?
Will our computer crash again? Will we get the 3D scene fully set up? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next game journal. Thank you so much for watching. Comment down below if you have any ideas or input about Senzu.
And peace!
Peace.